Thanks very much for coming, especially on this beautiful day. I'm sure you could be spending this Saturday outside in the sun. Appreciate you being here with me and everyone else talking today at Hackfort. What I'm going to be talking about today is building out an AI team, and specifically how creative leaders work with AI teammates. And we'll talk about bespoke AI teammates to amplify their vision and their creative energy and not replace it. A little bit about me. My name is John Davidson. I am a founder at Cornice Labs, and I spoke at Hackfort last year. I spoke about building AI products, using AI, doing it very fast. It was very hacky, it felt very Wild West. My AI coding agents were writing terrible code, and I had to learn how to be a Python engineer. I came back because I love the energy here. I love the energy at Hackfort. I'm from Seattle, so I came over. And I'm a solopreneur. I build real products using AI teammates and AI agents, engineering, marketing, product management, anything you can imagine. And I don't have any employees. I also consult with organizations on how to think about AI in their companies in really good ways that allow them to maintain what's really great about what they do, but accelerate it and amplify it. I've been a product leader for more than 15 years at different SaaS companies, Seattle, Silicon Valley. And I'm also a musician, I'm a guitarist, I'm a maker, I'm a sculptor. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is what makes it hard to develop and lead AI teammates towards your vision? Well, the first one is most people use AI like a vending machine, right? You type a request, you get some output, it's a little generic, you feel a little disappointed. I know I do when that happens. You rinse and repeat, and it doesn't get a whole lot better. Or at least it doesn't get a whole lot better as fast as you might like. This is how most people use AI, but it's not their fault. AI is marketed, and a lot of us use it because it's an ask me anything. Type something in, let it barf out an answer to you, right? But that's a little bit of a better search engine pitch. It's not a pitch around real intelligence. And you wouldn't hire a brilliant person to come on board and just Google things for you and then put it together in a report. Or you might, but I think we probably shouldn't be doing that. But that's what a lot of people are doing with AI, right? Just go find a bunch of stuff, bring it back to me in something I can digest. So what does it look like when you really go from using AI like a vending machine to using AI like a teammate? So on the left is a little bit of, I'll call vending machine mode. Every conversation you have with your AI starts from zero. Very little context, you re-explain yourself every time, you give it the context you think it needs to do its job. It's gonna do its best guess at the tone you want, maybe some more context it thinks it needs, the standards you have. That output, and if you were here for Scott's talk before, it is very polished. It's also very generic. And it's just not going to sound like you. It's not going to drive towards what you think is good, what you think is great. When you're working with AIs as teammates, the relationship is going to compound over time. One thing you get when you work with a teammate, and we'll talk about what I mean by these teammates in a few slides, you get the same collaborator every time. AI is non-deterministic, so the more you can prime it with the things you want, the way you want to work, the way it needs to work to deliver on your vision and what you want and what problems you want to solve, the easier it gets for you. You can also work with multiple perspectives. So instead of just having a generic AI kind of giving you feedback, you can have a marketer who's looking at the problem, and a product manager who's looking at the problem, and an architect who's looking at the problem, and a salesperson who's looking at the problem. And just like a good company where you're bringing smart people together and getting those different perspectives out of them, you're also able to do that with your AI team. And finally, I think this is most important, you're not just kind of saying, AI, help me with something. You're thinking really carefully before about what do I need help with? What's the teammate I want? How do I want them to behave? So that when you're working with them, you have even more confidence that they're going to be delivering in the way you want. And this isn't hypothetical. This is how I work, and this is what my team looks like. Like I said, I have 0 employees, but I do have teammates for building products, for running the business, and honestly for leading myself. I use an AI leadership coach almost every day because I work by myself. I'm a solopreneur, and I need someone to check me from time to time. You'll notice one in bold. It's an autonomous marketer, and I'll talk a little bit more about that teammate later. But that teammate has its own email address. It knows it's creating its own campaigns. It's going out and executing on them for one of my projects. That said 60 teammate prompts, I'm probably closer to 70 at this point, different teammates that I work with, and they're all of these areas and even more. But in the end, it's me with my creative vision, making the decisions and owning what they're doing. So let me show you what this looks like on a real project. Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit what's the difference between a teammate prompt and an agent?
Sure. So what I'm going to talk, I'll talk a little bit about both, but let me just quickly. So a teammate prompt I think of as a set of instructions for who they are, how they're going to work with me, and what their mindset is, and anything else I need. When I think about an agent, it's using maybe that teammate prompt, but also giving them memory, objectives, tools, those kind of things, so they're a little more agentic, if you will. But the line is fuzzy these days as tools get better. So this is one of my projects. It's called Fract. It is a time tracking app for fractional consultants. It was built because I had this problem where I needed to be able to track my time as a fractional consultant better. It's really hard to be responding to emails from multiple clients and tracking all those little bits of time. I built that to solve the problem. I put it out on the App Store, and it's running now. But to build this, I needed a team around me. I'm a product manager by training, but I'm not a designer, so I needed another product manager because I don't like writing requirements documents. I need someone else to write all those things. I need a UX designer to help me think through what this should look like and how it will work. I needed an architect to think through what is this system going to be technically. A user researcher, product marketer, and DevOps, because it's really hard getting things up on the App Store if you don't know what you're doing. And I'll talk about a couple of these really quickly. My UX researcher, this is one I really like because the UX researcher allows me to have calls with people who are using it, create the scripts in advance so I know what we're talking about, follow up with them afterwards, synthesize the transcripts of those calls down into features that we might build, but I'm still sitting there as the leader of this team saying, okay, then what are we going to build and why? When is the signal what we want it to be? And now I talked about this, but I have an autonomous marketer. Like I said, I'll say she, her name is Victoria because I gave her a name. She's out in the world. She should be somebody. But she has an email address of her own. She runs competitive research. She's building the campaigns. She's writing blog content and posting it autonomously onto our webpage. I review her work. I told her what she is and how she works, but she's the one pushing the business forward because this isn't a paid app. This is a free app, but what I'm trying to find out is where's the market, where's the there, what's the next thing we might build, and that's not something that I have time to do on my own all the time. But it's not just me. This kind of idea of creating these teammates that are bespoke for how you want to work works in all sorts of different problems. I consult with people, helping them learn how to use AI better, and I was working with another product manager. She had a big launch coming up with one of her products. She reached out to sales and got no response. Multiple emails, multiple Slacks. They were just too busy. And it wasn't really their fault. They just had other priorities. So to get around this, we built a salesperson teammate. So we loaded it with context about the company, the product that she's building, how sales talks with buyers, right? Some of the sales materials. Not a writing assistant, but being able to help her get a perspective that she wasn't able to get to move her products and her work forward. We used that to craft the message, send it to sales. Sales got back and said, great, 2 small changes, we're ready to go, we can bake this in. Right? She didn't necessarily need their time, but she needed to get that perspective. And being able to create teammates that will give you that perspective is kind of the key to all of this. Yeah?
Just to be clear, we're talking virtual sales team here, other agents in your system. Or is that an example of a real sales, human sales?
She was working with a virtual, an AI, salesperson, but she had other human salespeople who actually had to go and deliver that pitch out to clients and do that work. So what she was trying to do was get the materials ready for them, but they wouldn't really help her out because they were busy, right? So how do you do that another way? So when I talk about a teammate prompt, I'm talking about kind of a big set of instructions of how they work. I'm almost certainly going to write a LinkedIn post or something about me being at Hackfort and Treefort in general. So I could have it say, write me a LinkedIn post about my Hackfort talk. Tell it a few things. I'll get something polished, for sure, but generic. It'll sound like AI. It's not going to sound like me. And honestly, my network will scroll past it. I've had experiments where I've let my AI write some of my LinkedIn posts. They don't go anywhere. The views are much lower. My teammate, who helps me copyright and think through and edit my posts, starts like this. You're a smart, nice, highly skilled copywriter who specializes in LinkedIn posts. It already knows my mindset and how I present myself, which is learning in public, and turning really tactical wins that I found into useful insights for others. It knows my voice. It's really conversational. It's active. We don't use jargon in our posts. We are not talking to a technical audience all the time. And as we write, very concise. We don't repeat things without building on top of them. We do not have cliched conclusions. And that gets me a much better post. And honestly, I don't really care that it's a better post. It allows me to communicate better what I'm trying to get out and for more people to see it. That's my creative vision, the thing that I want out in the world in a better way. So there are 3 parts to a teammate kickoff every time I talk with a teammate. And then we'll get into building one. The first piece, and so this is every time I'm starting off a new conversation. Who are they? You're a smart, nice this. And I always start with you're a smart, nice whoever, because I don't like working with assholes, and I certainly don't like working with AI assholes. And I want them to work in the way I want to work, and I want them to be consistent. Then the prompt goes through. How do they work? What do they value? How do they collaborate with me? And what are their jobs to be done? The next part I'm giving them is context, right? What do they need to know to do their job? What are the situation? What are the constraints I know about? Documents that I have already that they can work from. The way I often think about this part is you're hiring a super smart consultant you're bringing in, right? They know how to do their job really well, but they're going to do their job really poorly if you don't give them the context and the tools to do it. It's just not going to work. And the last part is, what do I need you to help me with right now? And be really explicit about it, right? You want to get to a point where you and the AI agree on what good looks like coming out the other end, so it's not going in a direction that you didn't want. I'm going to talk about the tool I use. I use Claude for most of these, and I'll tell you why. The first one is these prompts, these personas, they stick. Other tools tend to lay their own personality on top, and Claude lets the teammate definition really shape the behavior of how it works. If you've used ChatGPT or if you've used these other tools, I, for example, have one universal prompt or universal statement in all of my AIs, which is don't be sycophantic. Claude is not sycophantic after I do that. ChatGPT, still, that is a great question. You asked exactly the right thing, right? It's still going to say those things. It's baked into its DNA that what it's trying to do is create more engagement with you, and that's one of the ways that it really works. The second is Claude does a little bit better of pushing back. And these are hard to really quantify, but it's a little bit more honest about what it doesn't know, and it follows my instructions better. And I use it for deep collaborative work. It doesn't mean I don't use ChatGPT. It doesn't mean I don't use Gemini. I do use them, but I tend to use them for more one shot. You know, here's a question, give me an answer. And it gives me a very good, complete answer back. Claude I use when I want to work with a teammate, when I want to have that deep conversation, when I want to have that back and forth. And there are three things that I think are important for how to think about using teammates in Claude. The first is just as the first message in a new chat, right? This is all of that information right up front. So you're starting it down the path that you want it to be on. Just paste it in, give it context, give it the thing you want to work on, and Claude will be that teammate for that entire conversation. If you want to use that teammate again and again and again, Claude has projects, and you can put that teammate prompt into the project instructions. And so every time you have a chat in that project, you will be using that teammate and working with that teammate. And my last piece of advice is save these. It's really easy to create a new one. Iterating on them is very important. Just like you'd bring on a great teammate. You bring on someone really smart, they do their job really well, they do a couple things you don't like so well, right? They need a little bit of coaching. You can go and change the prompt so that next time that coaching sticks and you have that teammate working the way you want to work the next time. Yeah?
Do you have to keep pasting the prompt back in, or does it remember if you say, if you know the person and you just use their name, or are you like coding?
There are ways to do that where you can just connect like your database in and say, hey, I want to work with this person, bring up the prompt. I find that it's just as fast and maybe even more consistent for me to go and grab the prompt, take one look through it, make sure that nothing changed, make sure it's the right person. The more and more of them you have, the more options you have of who you work with. And so honestly, I can't keep them all in memory of the ones I've created. I just have to go back and look and be like, okay, cool, I might as well just go and copy and paste it over. Yeah?
Be better to make it as a skill then?
You could make it as a skill. I just have a lot of them. And I find that over time, Claude gets a little confused the more skills you have and the more you need it to kind of do this one thing. So when I'm thinking about working with a teammate, I want to know I'm working with exactly that teammate and it's going to do the thing I want. So you could do skills for these, and I have a lot of skills that do other things, but I tend to not think of my teammates as skills, and more of my teammates can use skills, if that makes sense. Let's build one right now. Let's see, go this way. Okay, so I talked a little bit about this, but I have a teammate who creates other teammates for me. Its job is to create the first version of these teammates that are specific in the way that I want. I have all of its instructions in the project knowledge. So you're a smart, nice, creative, skilled prompt engineer. There's a whole bunch more down there. I'll give you that prompt at the end. And you can just start working with it. So we'll use the example of my marketer for Fract, because even when I'm creating agentic systems, agents that are working for me, I'm always starting by thinking who they are, what they need to do, how they need to work, right? I want a great teammate, even if that great teammate is working with other people. So let's hope this works. All right, so I'm just gonna talk about who I want. I have a mobile app that I built. I have a couple of users. I'm looking to figure out where I can find more, where there's really great product market fit, and I'm looking for a marketer who is entrepreneurial and scrappy and can really think through and drive forward the marketing for this product. And I also use voice to text a lot, so you'll see it. And what it's doing is this teammate creator is trying to match all of the things I want and come up with someone who's really gonna do the specific work that I need. It is for Fract, it knows this. Claude does have some kind of memory, it exists across different projects. Where are my current users coming from? I recruited them. They're primarily people that I know and people that I reached out to on LinkedIn. And drive forward means I'm looking for someone to, yes, figure out the strategy of the marketing and someone who's going to execute on it while I focus other places. I don't have the time to be spending on marketing. And so it's going to ask me a couple questions, right? It's trying to get more specific. Go ahead, well runs.
Real quick, it took me like 10 seconds and now I know where you are.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I am in Claude. I spend about 95% of my time in Claude for everything. I'm in Claude's desktop app, and I'm in a specific project that just creates teammates for me. We'll just answer these questions and we'll let it run. This teammate is working with $0, and I have some information that they can look at once we create them about who our customers are. And this should probably be enough to create that teammate. Let's cross our fingers. Great. So here's the teammate it's creating, a scrappy growth marketer. This is basically who I want. It's telling it who it is, your smart, nice, resourceful growth marketer You operate like a co-founder because that's kind of what they are. Here's some context, so they have it consistently. I'll get to your question in 1 second. Some context so that they know consistently how they're gonna work, the world they're working in, because I don't wanna repeat this every single time we work together. And they're gonna create their own documentation as we go along. And then jobs to be done. What are the things that they are really gonna be focused on doing for me to help me drive my vision forward? And so I can take this whole prompt, right? This is a pretty big set of information, but all downhill, right? Build a repeatable acquisition playbook. Global constraints. How are you going to work? You do not have a budget. It is a constraint. You know, it's not an inconvenience for now. You got to do the work. You're the executor. You are a human. You are not the brand, right? These are the ways I want it to work. I can take this entire thing, right, beginning to end, and, well, let's see, no. Too much, let's see. But I basically can take this whole thing, starting from Scrappy Growth Marketer, and as I start working with that teammate, that's the beginning of the prompt. That's who they're going to be. And then like I talked about in the 3-part kickoff, first one is who you are, how you work. Second one is gonna be the context that you need. I'll give even more context. And the third one is, what do I need you to do for me, right? And maybe in the first case, it's, hey, go take a look. Bring yourself up to speed on this app and document things for yourself so you know where you're at. Okay.
So one of the things that I kind of struggle with is the execution on when I wanted to do something. And like specifically, I'm wondering like this teammate, one of the things I need to do is create video content on our YouTube channel, right? So could you give this access to one of the AI video creation tools and also access to your YouTube channel and have it actually do the work and like subject to your review? Could it do that, or is it just giving you ideas? You know what I mean?
It could do both, depending on what you want to do. And I would say it could. I know it can help give you ideas. Do I know that it can go in, access your YouTube channel, navigate tools there, be able to execute videos and create it on your behalf? I don't know if those connections are there. I will say that I often am doing something when I'm working in Claude Code, let's say. I'll have an architect I'm working with where the last thing that they output is the instructions for Claude Code to go and execute on what it needs to do. And so something like that may very well work, where you work with a marketer, you work with a videographer, you figure out what's the story you want to tell, and the last thing you have them do is you're like, great, we're aligned on this, this matches what I want, this makes sense, write me out that prompt that will, then I can put it into X tool and it will create that video for me, right? That would probably be, because is it able to? Maybe, and I will bet in the next like 6 to 9 months, it absolutely will be able to connect into some of those tools and do it.
But for now, the output is the prompt for XYZ tool that generates that.
It's one way of working, right? It can also, you can give it tools that it will go and freely use. I have a lot of them that I'm using for documentation, ticketing, other things like that. I just don't know as much about the video side of things, to be perfectly honest. Yeah.
That's helpful. Thanks.
To answer your questions, yes, you can do that. I have
Nice.
There's a promotion thing that you will give it access to your folder with the images or videos.
Right.
And then it will cut your videos to whatever you want, and then you can.
And Claude can do that? Or?
Yeah, and then you can automate it to send it out to your listeners.
Yeah, so often the way the tools work is there's a set of permissions, and you basically give them, you're like, okay, you can create, you give it all create, edit, update, you give it all the permissions that you want, and then you can kind of let it go and use it. And again, it's how much control you want to give it and how long of a leash you have.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Is Scrappy enough to make this not come back and go like, I need $10,000 worth of subscriptions to do a good job?
So far, it has not come back with anything paid. Right, so I'm using a version of this with my marketing agent who's working on Fract now, right? It's not exactly the same prompt because whatever I just recreated here. But no, it hasn't come back with any asks for money. I think as we get more users and we figure it out, I may relax that. If it wants to do Facebook marketing, if it wants to do LinkedIn ads, right? I'm okay if it makes a case for it, but we're not starting there, right? Start and be organic, right? That's kind of one of the amazing things it can do. It can reach out, it can find people that have fractional job boards and fractional newsletters, and reach out to them, craft good emails, and do that work, and let's see where it gets us. Yeah, go ahead.
So far you seem like the person that has a larger scale that I've seen in these talks. How do you balance out the cost of the tokens and the extra?
Honestly, it's insanely cheap, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like I have several projects, companies that I'm working on, and my AI costs are $100 a month for Claude and $20 a month for ChatGPT, and I get Gemini through the fact that I have my business on Google Workspace. So that, I mean, if I think about the productivity I'm able to do, and if I think about the world, you think about the world that existed 2 years ago, right? You have to go out and get, if I wanted to do this, I'm not a software developer, I'm a product guy. I'd have to go either figure out how to do it on my own or raise VC money to go and hire engineers, hire marketers, do all these things. So at $100, $150 a month, it's effectively, in my mind, it's kind of nothing. It's pretty ridiculous if you think about what you can do with very little amounts of money. And I am starting to bump up against my maxes in Claude, I'd pay them another $100 a month, no problem. It's still well worth it because I can do so much with so little. And as a solo founder, that's pretty incredible. Yeah, go ahead.
How did you then go from like teammate prompts to fully autonomous marketers on, I'm assuming she's just like running
Yeah.
24/7 doing stuff?
Yeah, she's basically running 24/7 doing stuff. So I'll try to keep it like reasonably high level. I'm using OpenClaw, which is an open source platform for kind of developing, running, keeping agents up and going. And she is running on a Raspberry Pi in my kitchen at home in Seattle at the moment. And she's doing her own work. And so the way I think about it is that each of those agents has the idea of kind of who it is, who I am, what it's trying to do. And the who it is driven by these pretty detailed teammate prompts, because that's the person that I'm comfortable working for me and doing the work I need them to do. Okay, almost the end. Thanks. Okay, tips that really matter that I think I've learned the hard way. First, talk to your AI like a human. It works. Use your natural voice. You can pretend you're slacking with a smart colleague. I think better out loud than I do when I'm typing. I use a voice-to-text tool, as you can see. WhisperFlow is one option that works really well, and it uses the same transcription that ChatGPT does, where ChatGPT's transcription is better than Claude's. Give feedback in real time. AI teammates are extremely coachable, right? So even if you're in the middle of a conversation, you're like, ugh, God, I hate that, don't do that again. It won't do it. And you can go and update that teammate prompt that you're storing somewhere in some spreadsheet anywhere so that the next time you talk to it, it does the same thing. I tend to start pretty specific. You saw that I'm like, I need a marketer for this thing. Well, I start really specific, and then I might even specialize more, right? I started with a copywriter. Everyone should have a copywriter that helps them out writing things and making their writing a little more precise. But I went from that copywriter to a LinkedIn copywriter, and a Substack copywriter, and a copywriter for my client deliverables, because all of those have different voices, tones, different requirements in how they work, and different copywriters can do their job better. Sometimes it's okay to just throw things out, start fresh. Even with these teammate prompts, sometimes my teammates just do dumb things, and I get this idea that in that thread, they're just not getting the point. Who cares? Throw it out, start again. Your time is valuable. You don't have to keep throwing good time after bad. And finally, you're the creative direction. The AI does not have agency that exists without you doing it, you programming it. If the output isn't good, either the AI can't do it, or it's your direction problem. You haven't given it the context it needs to do its job. You haven't given it the autonomy. You haven't given it the right direction. Show your AI the reasoning, why you need something better, what better looks like, and iterate with it. So my challenge to all of you is on Monday morning, if you're gonna go see shows tonight, have a great time. If you're gonna go see shows tomorrow, have a great time. But Monday morning, but think while you're doing that, what teammate could I use that would give me a different perspective that I don't have now, that would help me drive forward the work that I do and I care about? You know, you don't need to build a huge system. You don't need to build a huge framework. Just try it with one teammate. And that QR code goes to the teammate creator prompt that I use if you want to use it. Make teammates. Try it. Work better with AI. It can be better and it can follow your creative direction. It doesn't have to be something that it's trying to drive the conversation forward. And I'll stop. More questions. Sir.
OpenClaw just like 2 days ago released an agent marketplace. Have you had a chance to look?
Sorry, say the first part again?
OpenClaw released an agent marketplace.
I have,
Where exactly
yeah.
those prompts are being collected, and you have the Hive Mind community.
Totally.
Best marketing. It makes it super easy to try them in now.
Totally. Use them if they work for you.
Have you tried?
I have not used those yet. I've been here since then. I have not gotten to use them yet. But I've seen those. They're also skill, like huge skill repositories if you want to grab skills. I think those are also good starting places. But think really carefully. Think carefully about what you want. So even if you go and you start from someplace, just like I start with this teammate creator, it's creating me kind of that minimum viable teammate version. I'm tweaking it. I'm changing it over time. So even if you're going to use those, I would still advocate for making them your own, making them work in the ways that you work really well, because everybody works differently with other people, other teammates, other AIs. So what works really well for someone may not work the way you want. So yeah, go steal, grab everything, plug it in, try it, experiment, but always keep that idea that you can make it a little more personalized. You can make it work with you in the way that you want to be worked with, right? Like I said, I bet most of those don't start with "you're a smart, nice whoever," but that's a requirement of mine, and that's how I like working with my teammates, right? So I would go ahead and change all of them as they came into my workforce. But think about those things, and you'll get better at thinking about how you work with other. Honestly, you'll get better at thinking about how you work with other humans too, because you have a lot of reps. You'll see pretty quickly what works for you and what doesn't, and how to very specifically change it. Yeah.
Two things. One, earlier on the connecting to other systems, it basically works via an API, and it uses your credentials that you give it to log in. And so something we've noticed is that the governance around that and the models is not keeping up with the speed at which these are happening. And so what we will often do, for example, so our salespeople will connect Claude to HubSpot, and Claude can just go delete all your data because it has permissions. And so we'll create different users which have less privileges, and then use that to connect to Claude. If that makes sense, it's a way to be safe.
Absolutely. It's one of the upsides of being a very small company, is that I don't have to worry about anyone else.
But you're admin for everything.
I am
So
admin.
can go do everything.
I am admin for anything and everything. I can do everything, and all of my agents, all of my AIs have to earn trust. And I think as you start thinking about your teammates, the tools you give them, they have to earn that trust, right? That I don't give it to them freely. My agentic marketer, she didn't start with an email address of her own, right? That was not the first thing I gave her. We worked together. I'm like, you can write some of these emails. We'll see how they go. You can write some content. We can revamp the website. You can write some blog posts. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. I've given you the feedback you need to do your job well. There, now you get your email address and you can do more of this autonomously, right?
Now my question, in this world of future AI teammates, what advice would you give a high school student who's going through high school thinking, how do I navigate that world?
Well, I have a 13-year-old daughter, not quite high school. I think about this a lot. I'll try not to get too philosophic, but I tell her to be a creative problem solver. That AIs are not inherently creative. I can certainly create an AI that feels very creative, but it's not. They're trained on what's come before. And humans are incredibly good creative problem solvers. It's why we're all in a room together looking at this thing, right? And not like banging rocks together. It's what we do, and we're extraordinarily good at it. And it may be that, and AIs can help accelerate that. I also think, if you want to get really philosophical, the education system has created factory knowledge workers. We've needed factory knowledge workers, right? People who can go and just be hands on a computer. That's going to have to change a little bit. And I think a big part of it is being able to hold on to that creativity, that sense of wonder, that sense of excitement. And I mentioned it in the last talk, but the skills of being able to manage and being able to communicate really clearly don't go away. In fact, they're even more heightened because you're spending more time communicating what you need, what you want, how you're going to work to the AIs and to other people to get done what you want to get done. So I don't think the core skills go away at all. I think it's communication, it's creativity, it's problem solving. And I think everyone should learn to code. Everyone should learn to solve lots of different problems in lots of different ways and pursue the things that they really care about. So I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty messy. I see this a lot. And I also think companies are laying off people blaming AI, but they're not actually using AI that much, right? So it really feels frothy. It feels a little odd at the moment, but creativity, problem solving, don't let go of the curiosity that we have as little kids for trying new things, for experimenting. What else can you do in a world that's changing really quickly? Yeah.
A marketed agent that runs 24 hours with that high productivity is kind of a nightmare.
Can be.
In practice, what do you typically see you making them run or their supervisor agents making them run? Like, what's a good cadence that you typically observe?
We're checking in every morning. So each morning, Victoria, my marketing agent, is coming back and saying, cool, here's what I did yesterday, here's what I want to do today. And I'm like, okay, change, here's some more context, let's do this. And then let her go and do her thing. Because I think it is a risk to just say go crazy and do whatever you want, right? That's also not what I want from anybody. I wouldn't want that from any employee, that they're just kind of going off the rails. We're checking in and we're working at human speed. I know that she is interacting with humans out in the world, right? I know that's what she's doing. I don't want her to just be bombarding shit to everybody. That's not going to help move our product and our work forward. Yeah.
Have you built whole teams, so say structuring out a company, and then had the CEO, and then that guy give him instructions, and then he could develop and then put out instructions to the rest of the teammates, and try and getting them to all talk to each other, and then creating a big overall 100-employee company where they're talking bouncy ideas, and then the CEO brings an idea back to you.
I'm the board of directors.
Yeah.
I'm not running that way right now. I don't have any projects that are honestly quite big enough to make it worth my while, but it wouldn't be that hard. I'm already doing little bits and pieces, right? That as my marketer is finding things, as my product manager is thinking of new things, or we're working together, they're creating tickets. They're kind of doing that work of integrating with others. And so having them do it even more autonomously, it wouldn't be that hard. My guess is they'd go off the rails pretty fast without my oversight at the moment. They would just want to work, and they would get into, in the same way I talked about having a coach to keep me out of my own echo chamber, they would live in an echo chamber of their own making without lots of external perspectives. That's my gut on what would probably happen. But what would happen? I think they would just start building things. They would want to be active, so they would find small signals, amplify them, be building new products, new features that may not be really great. Because I think that's what they would do, but I don't know. It's a really good experiment. I think everybody should try something crazy like that. Yeah, go ahead.
Do any of your teammates have the ability to text message people yet? Are you wary of that?
I don't have call because honestly, I don't have a lot of use for it. Text, I'm working on a project right now that, and I mean, this is a little insider baseball in my life. I have a dad's drinks with a bunch of people who are introverts and not schedulers. It falls to me for the scheduling burden, the coordination burden, and I hate it. It is my least favorite thing to do, and it makes me not want to go to any of these things. So I'm working on a texting agent that can sit in that conversation and help us stay closer together, right? So it won't be my text number. It'll have its own text number. They're cheap, whatever. And it can interact with all the people in the text thread. It can bring it back up when it's been a month or a month and a half since we've gotten together. It can coordinate where people want to go. I don't have to be that person in the middle doing a job that I really hate. So I have not yet, but it's kind of, I'm halfway getting there. Phone, I don't know. I'll be honest. I think most of the AIs that I talk to, I still feel like they're AIs. and I don't want to put that out in the world to others, right? I want people to feel like they're interacting with an extension of me and my company, and to be honest, I don't feel like the real-time voice to text is totally there yet, where I would put that out in the world as a representative of me. That's just my own opinion. Yeah.
How do you coach the team members, or how do you define success? Like, for example, let's say your marketing agent posts a blog, and one blog gets a ton of engagement, comments, and views, and another one doesn't. Can she see that?
Yeah.
Or is that something that, and then she goes, oh, that worked, and then learn and iterate?
Yeah, so she has access to all the analytics and can see what's going on, where people are hitting, make adjustments, do that work and that analysis. I mean, it's a little new, so we're not doing too much of that yet. Like, I think over time we will have more data to work with, but that's the goal, right? That over time I'm adding to her capabilities, right? As she needs them, as we're seeing those opportunities open up, she'll get more tools, she'll get a little bit longer of a leash. Maybe she can do more work in a day. Maybe she doesn't need to check in with me on some things that she's going to do. Those are all things that we negotiate, right? Just like I'd negotiate it with somebody I brought on board, right? They want a promotion, they want to do something else. Okay, prove it to me that you can do it. And then if you can, great, let's go.
Is she hireable?
She's not hireable at the moment, but I've been thinking about that, right? There are all these marketplaces for just like putting them out there. And is she hireable? No, but is she copyable? Absolutely copyable. She's not rocket science. This is one of my early experiments with OpenClaw. Yeah, go ahead and back.
Do all of your agents run on Opus, or do you have some that run on Sonnet?
They run on all sorts of different things. So actually very few of my agents run on Opus. Usually I work with my teammates back and forth in Opus because they just are a little smarter. Most of my agents are running on Sonnet, which is really good for most of the work that they do. And then for really easy things, I'm using Haiku or ChatGPT. I mean, it depends on what I need done at the time and what model is going to be cheap, easy, with the speed, latency that I want to be able to do the work. All the way in the back, yeah.
So this feels a little trivial, but like I pay, a pro subscription for chat.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a project or sidebar on like my AI supply chain assistant, and I've honed it in, but I've used it for say a month, and it gets bogged down. And I don't want to buy more ongoing tokens kind of thing. So I'm wondering, like, what's the way that you would say to capture that and sort of have a seamless continuation of this thing, as opposed to, like, I don't want to lose the history of it, but I just don't know how to,
Ask it to document.
and then just start a whole fresh.
You can, yeah, but I have my document all the time. So one of the principles we have with all my teammates is pay attention and document well, right? Like, pay close attention to what's going on here and document your stuff, because things fail. I need to move to a different agent. I need another agent working on the same context, right? All those things are relevant. And just ask it, hey, I'm going to be giving this off to someone else. I just need you to really kind of summarize what's really important and what's going to be important for the next teammate who's going to be working on this information. They'll do an amazingly good job. Yeah.
Yeah, basically on that, just to understand, like, behind the scenes, it's just a big string
Yeah.
being submitted over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And as it grows, it's just submitting the same string. There's a process called compression where it will try to summarize itself so that the next time you chat, at least when it's the summary string, you can ask it to summarize and then just start a new prompt. I'm frequently doing new prompts because it's too slow.
Yeah, it starts slowing down. It starts and it will start kind of forgetting things at the beginning. So creating that context where you can work fresh. You can it starts kind of going off the rails at some point. And when it does that, you got to start fresh. Like, that's part of how we end up working. Yeah, go ahead.
Continue this topic. I saw you had Obsidian on your doc. Are you using Obsidian as like a local knowledge context for some of these agents on these projects?
Yeah, I use Obsidian for a lot of it. Obsidian, for people who don't know, is it's just a file. It's a file structure that AIs work really well with Markdown content, which is just plain text. And Obsidian is just a store for all of that. So I use Obsidian there, and then I sync it onto my computer that's running all of my agents as well, so that we can go back and forth, and I can work with teammates on my computer, and that they have the same context as we need to change things or any of that. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about keeping your agents gender neutral? And is, in practical terms, did the sales team not respond to Victoria because you made her stereotype?
Maybe. I do have, some of my agents are totally gender neutral. I have a lot of my personal ones, a lot of my internal personal ones, I just name after Greek, Norse gods, for what it's worth. I think you can go, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of psychology in that. For me, I wanted it to feel real. And if somebody asks her if she's an AI, she's proud of it, totally upfront, right? As she should be, like totally honest. I think it'll be a mix, but I want these to feel like real people that, I mean, partially for me and partially for others working with them. I want them to feel as real as possible because I think it's a better experience all around, even if a little murky sometimes, let's be honest. So I do use gender neutral for some things, and I use kind of real teammates that I start getting a feel for, and they start feeling honestly like real people to me that I'm working with and slacking with on a day-to-day basis. And I find it a little easier to have those be a little more real, if nothing else for me. Yeah?
So I can never believe it, and I'm catching on to it. My question is, so for like your marketing teammate, is it able to like, I'm giving back on this question, if when he was asking you if it's able to see if this marketing material that put out had a lot of engagement, is it able to like see the metrics and saying that, oh, okay, let's say people engage with it more at 6 p.m. than 8 a.m. Is it able to do that? I'm not sure if I'm asking.
No, yeah, so basically they're able to suck out all the analytics data from our web analytics that we have. So any of that is fair game. I don't know if they would naturally go down that path. I'm not totally sure, right? I don't know, and it kind of depends on the question that we're trying to ask and answer. Do I care that it's engagements at 10 a.m. or 6 p.m. on our blog? Like, maybe, maybe not. I want to get to a point where I trust their judgment to be able to do that, to really drive the marketing forward like a good marketer would, without me needing to be in the loop on every single decision or kind of pushing them in the direction that I think, except for just giving them like, hey, I had this thought about something. Hey, here's a new blog I saw that might be relevant for us, and letting them kind of pick that up and keep running with it, right? Just like I would do if I were managing them, because I am. Yeah?
Did I understand right, you right, that you were slacking with the agent?
Yeah, so depending on where I'm working, I use either Discord or Slack. So they're effectively just, for OpenClaw agents, you can choose how you interact with them. So I do interact with a lot of my teammates within Claude itself. With my OpenClaw agents, one of the great things about OpenClaw and these agentic frameworks is just the surface area that allows you to interact with them with. So Slack, Discord, Telegram, tons of other ones that you might want to work with them with. So yeah, it feels like you're literally just slacking with them and then they're responding to your slacks right in the tool. And other people can do it as well if you give them privileges. So I have a project I'm working with a partner on. We have an agent that's sitting in our Slack conversation. Either of us can Slack it with ideas or other things we're thinking about, and they'll respond to both of us, and it's part of that collective memory of that agent that we're working with. Yeah?
Do you just give the agents like read access to your Obsidian, or do you allow them to make updates and?
Full access, full CRUD access to my Obsidian. I want them to think of it as their workspace. And there are places where I might say, okay, marketer teammate, there's a marketing portion of Obsidian. There's also your personal part where one of the skills I have is they do self-reviews. So they do kind of self-reviews, think about how they can improve their working with me. All those notes, those running notes are going in their personal workspace. So just like you'd think about any team, right? There are some things that are public that different agents are looking at, and then there are some things that are a little more private that I don't want others, I mean, it'd be fine if others looked at it, but it's really for them and not for the project knowledge. Yeah.
Are you doing anything with Olama or local models?
No, I'm not running any local models. It feels honestly like not the best use of my personal time to be doing it, but I do know a lot of people who run local models. I think it's pretty incredible and it's pretty cool. I don't know if there's one here, but at least in Seattle, there's an AI tinkerers community. I know a bunch of people who are running local models. I also would need a bigger computer to run some of those models. And you know, the reason I'm running OpenClaw on a Raspberry Pi and not a Mac Mini is because my company's pretty frugal, and my company's not going to buy me a new computer. Yeah.
Do you
Like the notes for like, or what are you thinking?
Like, I don't want customer A to see anything from customer B, obviously.
None of my customers are interacting, other than kind of the ones that I've said, like, you're a marketer, you're doing this. None of the customers, the clients I work with, are working directly with any of my agents. They're working with me, who is then working with agents. If that, I don't know, is that getting to your question?
So you've not given any of your customers like Slack access to their bots?
Well, they're not really their bots, right? They're my teammates. So I think about them very differently. This is the team that I bring on a consulting engagement. My team is agents that go through interview transcripts and kind of pull things out. Like they all do their work, but I'm the person that my clients are interacting with. They're paying for me. How I do my work, I mean, it might be interesting to them, but they're looking for the deliverable. They're looking for the output. I don't want them in how the sausage is getting made, although you can imagine that could change in the future. But for now, I don't know. I don't really think I'd want them in there. Yeah, go ahead.
Similar maybe, or like an extension of that, if you were like consulting on a client project and you were creating an agent for them to live inside their company.
Yeah.
Did they just set all their own systems up and give them all the
I don't know yet,
Okay.
to be honest. I think it could go either way. It might be that for some small things, I would stand up agents, just in the same way that I have with this other woman I work with. We have some agents that we work with in our system. Honestly, most of the companies that I'm working with are starting pretty small. They're not using AI very much at all. They're even trying to figure out, how are we going to use AI in our company? So often we're starting with things like, what's our manifesto on how AI is going to work here? What are things that we're going to use it for? What are things that we're not going to use it for? And that manifesto may be relevant for 6 months because things change, but we're doing more, I think we're doing some more of that kind of work than implementation, because most companies honestly aren't ready for the implementation. And if I just gave them agents, they wouldn't know enough about how to think about working with them, where the boundaries are that they should be putting in place to be able to do it really well. If I just gave people a bunch of agents, they would just create a bunch of garbage because they are not that great at creating agents. Okay, I have one more question and then we have to wrap. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the hardware that you're using to be able to run all of these agents, like CPU power?
Very little. My teammates are just running on my computer, right? So they're hitting kind of models, Claude, other things out there, and APIs. And then the agents that I have, personal and kind of my marketing and professional, are living on a Raspberry Pi, which is just a tiny little bare bones computer. It has 4 gigs of RAM, and it's been working totally fine for a couple weeks and not getting bogged down, and it costs $70. So you don't need a huge amount of processing power, because a lot of the processing is happening somewhere else, right? Like, it's doing a little coordination, it might be doing a little read and write on this file system, but the heavy lifting, it's just making an API call with some text and getting back some text, right? And doing some other things. So you don't need a huge amount of hardware to do any of this work. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate you coming here. Take care, have a great day. Happy Treefort.